Welcome to Leaders Having Lunch with host Jeff Conroy. I am your host, Jeff Conroy, and we are here in the conference room at the Post Falls Chamber offices in Post Falls, Idaho. This show is dedicated to talking to great leaders and finding out about what makes them so great. Today, we have Ryan Davis, the CEO and Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Kootenai County. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Wonderful. Glad to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Full disclosure, Ryan and I have been friends for a long time, and being serious is not in our repertoire.
I get a little bit nervous whenever somebody is recording me and says full disclosure. So somehow that's going to be played somewhere.
Well, you and I have been friends for a really long time. And one of the things that we've always talked about on occasion is leadership. You are the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Kootenai County.
Yes.
Tell us about your career and how you got to this point.
Wow. Yeah. So exciting to me, probably not exciting to the layman. But I started off at Lewis Clark State College. It's where I met my wife. We met in a communications class, and I was in the social science department, taking classes, and actually got recruited at Boys and Girls Club of Lewis Clark Valley down in Lewiston. And they said, "Hey, would you like to come ref some basketball?" Obviously working with kids when I was in high school and stuff. So I came in and volunteered, and from there they said, "Hey, you should really think about applying." And I was working at an athletic store at that time. It's an athletic store that's not in existence anymore. And about 90% of my paycheck at that store went back into product, whether it was tennis shoes or whatever the case, because you
were their best customer.
You're 19 years old and you have to have fly shoes. So anyway, I thought, what a great opportunity. I applied and was actually hired, I want to say it was September of 1994, to work with Boys and Girls Clubs of Lewis Clark Valley. I worked there about 2.5 weeks in their computer lab. And so for anyone that's listening to this that, 80s, 90s computers, a lot of my time was spent running Oregon Trail, the software.
Yeah.
A lot of folks dying of dysentery, that whole situation. So started for a couple weeks, and then they immediately approached me and said, "Hey, we have an assistant team director position open." And so I moved into that. I was with the team program for a couple of years. There was some transition, and I had the opportunity to actually have my first full-time gig. I won't even mention what my salary was because it's so embarrassing, but at that time it was like, I'm a full-time benefited employee. This is amazing.
That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. So did team work there and worked specifically with junior high and high school kids, and it was all about youth development in that capacity. That basically got me an opportunity. One of my former mentors had left there and was running a Boys and Girls Clubs in northern Arizona in Sedona. Beautiful place. Went and visited, and my wife and I celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary and basically moved to Arizona.
Oh, wow.
So I was the site supervisor, basically the number 2 at the Sedona Boys and Girls Club, Boys and Girls Clubs of Northern Arizona. And so I was running team programs, but also managing all the staff, 22 years old, and just kind of really drinking from a fire hose, as everyone says. Kind of processing through everything, and we missed the trees and we missed Idaho, and so we moved back. And I worked with youth in a variety of different capacities. Spent 7 years working with youth out of a large church, Capital Christian Center. Did some outside sales work. But for some reason, this whole Boys and Girls Club thing, the hook stayed in me. And so had circled back around, and one of my very, very good friends was running the Boys and Girls Clubs down in southern Idaho and Nampa, and recruited me in as his number 2. Was there for about 2 years, and then the long and short of it was this position opened up. They had no staff, they had no programs, they had a dream of starting a Boys and Girls Club up here and a little bit of seed money to build a building. So I came up, was hired, and my first day was November 20th of 2006. Wide-eyed, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, sitting in the parking lot of D.A. Davidson thinking, what in the hell am I getting myself into? And walked in that first day, and the rest is history. Yeah. So that was a long answer to a short question.
No, that's a great one, and you've done a ton. I mean, I've watched you build the club in Post Falls and then open the club in Coeur d'Alene. It has been fun. I've been to some of your events. Your events are always amazing. They're great.
We worked very, very hard, and when it was just me, it was like, okay, we're trying to build a capital campaign. We want to build a facility, and then we saw the downturn, 2008, 2009, 2010. So we started running programs. We ran programs out of the basement of Post Falls Church of the Nazarene. We chartered with the National Boys and Girls Clubs. We chartered with them in 2007 with 110 kids. Last year, we finished our annual report out. We were just shy of 4,000 kids. So, few years we've been able to build it up. We have the Post Falls site and we have the Coeur d'Alene site, and now we're just being very, very fiscally responsible because we're not a federally funded agency, so we grow slow and make sure the community is behind us.
Have a good foundation to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
I 100% agree. So I talk often about my own leadership journey and how my leadership style changed over time. I went from a hierarchy, top down, I'm the boss, you gotta follow me type person, to realizing that when you're a leader and no one's following you, you're on a long, lonely journey. How did you find your leadership style?
It was very similar in the sense of it was definitely a journey. Chris Corrado was with Boys and Girls Clubs of America. I think she's still actually with the movement. Old school Boys and Girls Club. She's been around for a long, long time and was one of my mentors kind of from a distance. Every time I would go to a conference, I would take classes from her. She was amazing. And I think it was Management 1 or Management 2, this track that I took, and it was that very thing that you just mentioned. She had us all in a class. We get there early in the morning, and she said, come with me. And so we said, fantastic. So we file out of the Marriott or whatever hotel we're in. We file out, and we start walking down the street, and it was literally half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. And finally somebody said, hey, where are we going? So she stopped us, went back, and started teaching. And so we were like, oh, wow. And for some reason, that really stuck with me. And I found being the only staff when we moved up here to now that we're in summertime, we're at like 55, 60 staff. I have been able to surround myself realizing that I have a bunch of shortfalls, and there's things that I'm good at, but there's things that I am terrible at.
Right.
And so I go out and find the right people. So I am not one of those people that it's like I want mini-me's all around me. I want people that are better than me in a multiplicity of things. Get them engaged and let them go. I don't try to micromanage. That's one thing that I just don't do. So it's been kind of a long process and I think a lot of it is where I started alone. I began to see, okay, you're weak in this area, find somebody that can make it happen.
No, and I agree. I don't think you can lead in a vacuum.
No.
And it is a journey because no one, you and I talked about this, I don't believe anyone is a born leader.
Right.
I think people are born with charisma that people are attracted to.
Yep.
But I think leadership skills are learned, and there is just no one way. It's not one leadership style fits everybody. It's people pick up nuggets of leadership along the way to make their own. I've mentioned in the past, I had a boss that I never want to be like, and he used to ring a bell when he wanted you. But I've also had worked for some amazing people,
right,
who I still keep in touch with today, and I try to emulate, try to do it justice. But maybe it's my own version of that. So those people I call my mentors. I'm sure you've got mentors that you work with.
What's weird, I was actually thinking about this the other day, is that I have mentors on both sides. And I guess what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that I have worked for, just like you said, man, I want to be like them. Sometimes when you're young, almost to the point that you try to pick up their mannerisms and you try to talk like them. You have those people on that side. I want to be like that. And I have mentors that, like you said, the bell ringing guy, there's people that have been in my life that have been supervisors, coworkers, and I learned so much from them, but it was everything that I didn't want to do,
exactly.
I didn't want to be. And I have found in my job, because there's so many, there's, about 3,000, 3,500 Boys and Girls Clubs nationwide. To me, what I have found is leadership. It's about embracing who you are. It's about embracing your strengths, embracing your personality. I'm the type of person that I want to be out in the community. I want to be touching base with people. I want to be in people's space. I'm a social person. I have friends that run very successful organizations that sit in their office and write grants all day and find people to do that. But they're more of I want to be isolated. So I've kind of learned as I've grown over time is embrace who you are and utilize that.
Yeah, I've been told once I've got a good sense of humor. Use it.
Yeah.
You know,
No, absolutely.
And I think that's where you and I connect.
I've been told that I have a face for radio, so I just embrace that.
I'm sure the video portion of this podcast will be coming out soon.
Right. Then I wish there would have more pajamas. That makes me feel very.
We'll do that next time.
Right.
All right. What kind of books do you read? Every leader's trying to improve themselves,
Right.
And a good leader will always try to improve themselves and try to modernize themselves, stay with the times.
Yeah.
What do you read?
I actually even brought two just because I wanted to bring two. But I would say, again, going back to about the time that I moved up here in 2006, shortly after that, I started growing as a leader. And a few years later, I ran into Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath. Yeah. To me, that book it spoke to me in such a deep way because I was the new guy in a new community with a new organization. Nothing existed. And sometimes you feel a little bit like David.
Oh, yeah.
And then reading that book of, wait a minute, that's not a shortfall. That's not a weakness. That's actually a great thing. That book absolutely blew my mind. Love that. Outliers, his other, another one of his book, just absolutely phenomenal. One thing, my wife actually just got me this book at Christmas, and I read it, and it's My Speed because it's a little book of inspirations. But Simon Sinek is another one.
Oh yeah.
But Simon put together is better, and it's interesting because in his book, it's just little snippets, and I found it's absolutely awesome. Like different quotes from Aristotle. There's there's only one way to avoid criticism: do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. Little things like that, because I find those are nuggets that I take. I use in my presentation. I use in my staff meeting. So Simon Sinek is awesome.
I haven't found that one yet.
Yeah, this one actually I got for Christmas, and then I picked this up at a thrift store a while back and just getting into it. But the name of the book is Lead Like Ike.
Oh, yeah.
And so 10 principles from the CEO of D-Day. And so I'm a big military history buff, and so I found that, and I'm like, oh, I want to get into it. Started to read it. It's actually super interesting.
Wow.
So, yeah, but I would say, the usuals, 90% of the time when you talk to people, they're going to mention Malcolm Gladwell and they're going to mention Simon Sinek. But those books speak to me, and it allows me to be able to, throw nuggets out and seem impressive.
And seem impressive. Are you a podcast guy?
A little bit.
Audiobook?
I guess I am old school at 45, but I have a lot of younger staff, and I have staff that are just massively into podcasts and books on CDs, and I'm just starting to get into that.
Right.
No, I'm more of a reader and getting way more into the podcast just because there's so many amazing things out there.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
Yeah,
it's really quite interesting.
Definitely.
So, give me your best leadership moment. There's got to be a few in your tenure.
I think honestly, I would say from a learning standpoint, and then from a leading standpoint. From a learning standpoint, there was a few mentors in my life that I never forget. A couple stories. One was I was young, I was involved in an organization, and I had a guy come to me, and we were having a conversation just about staff and about future and next levels. And he made a comment that has stuck with me that I've shared with every one of my staff, and that is, charisma can take you to a point that your character can't keep you. And I absolutely love that. I know, and I think everyone listening knows, there's a lot of individuals out there that just ooze of charisma.
Right.
And they can do fantastic and say fantastic things. But character, it's so very, very important, isn't it? I think it's Schwarzkopf that has a quote that talks about that. Two things in leadership is strategy and character, but if you only can have one, get rid of strategy.
Exactly.
Character is super, super important. And from that point, seeing that, it kind of spurred me into, really trying to focus on that. Yeah. But I would say from a leadership standpoint, one of last week's meetings that we were in, we did basically a week of shutdown. We had all of our staff doing a training, and I facilitated one day of the training for about an hour, and the staff took everything over. I have two branch directors, Jamie Paul and Jesse Matthews, and they have been with me. Jamie's been with me 8 years. Jesse's been with us 5 years. She was with us, both of them were with us. We started off in the basement of the Nazarene Church, and then Jesse moved to California, came back, but they are running their own clubs now. and to watch them run and lead their staff, and their staff are captive on every word. Yesterday was our first day of summer programs, and my branch directors are going, I don't know, it ran so smooth. That was probably one I laid down last night going, that was awesome.
It's a good day.
Yeah, because they're catching it, and now they're replicating it. And so, yeah, I mean, it was pretty recent, but I would say that's probably in the top 10.
That's a good day.
Yeah.
That'll cause you to go, okay, I'll go to the door.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What's your favorite leadership quote?
Oh my goodness, actually, it's funny. I keep several on my phone just because they all mean different things to me in different ways. Can I share a couple?
Yeah. And people ask me, why do you ask about the leadership quote? I'm a quote guy.
Yeah.
I love quotes. I collect them.
The one that I've carried on my phone for probably the longest time is a quote from Larry Fitzgerald. And I love it because, again, coming into a new place, new organization, first time being in executive leadership, you kind of are like a deer in headlights. But this quote is, always act like you've been there before. And I love that because there are times that you are absolutely freaked out, or there's times that you feel like you're in over your head. And it's not false confidence, but sometimes you just have to act like you've been there before.
You do?
Yeah. I love that. Again, another one that I learned early on was from Herbert Swoop that says, I cannot give you the formula for success, but I can give you the formula for failure, which is try to please everyone.
Exactly.
I would say one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, especially in the nonprofit world, is that you are not going to be able to please everybody. And there's a peace knowing that, okay, someone's going to be offended, someone's not going to be happy, but I'm going to do the absolute best that I can. And the other one is, of course, a classic, Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Oh.
And I think that's important
That's a good one.
from a nonprofit standpoint, with investors, with the kids that we serve within the club, with the staff in all of those capacities. I think early on as a leader, I would find these amazing things and I'd walk away going, that just blew their mind. Kids would never remember it, but they'd be driving along going, hey, remember when we went on this field trip and you told this joke and everybody was laughing and so-and-so had soda shoot out their nose? Something that they experienced, the way that they made them feel, they never forget.
Right. We used to joke when I was directing Boy Scout camps was they won't remember the program, they won't remember the staff, but they'll remember the food and the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll always remember those things. So.
Why do those silly camp songs go from generation to generation to generation? It's because they never forget them.
They never forget them. And why do you think I sing Grand ODP Girls all the time? Because everybody knows it. So, Ryan, thank you. Thank you for sitting in with us. And this was fun. And it was fun to have one of my first podcast guests to be you, a good friend.
Call it beta testing, call it guinea pig, whatever. I'm there for you.
There was no testing. Again, I want to give a shout out to the Post Falls Chamber of Commerce for letting us use their conference room for today's podcast. Thank you for listening to Leaders Having Lunch with me, Jeff Conroy. And remember, leadership begins with a relationship.